Welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. I am your host, Alec Lewis. This is episode 101, recording on Monday, August 4th. Got the night practice tonight. So a little afternoon podcast with a guest who was one of my favorites. Spent a lot of time with him during the season, during training camp. His name is Dane Mizutani. He works for the St. Paul Pioneer Press, covers the team day to day, is out here at training camp every day, just like I am. Always enjoy getting to catch up with Dane, which again, I mean, it's like getting to catch up with someone you're with every day. So was good to just chat with him, get his thoughts on what he's seen so far at training camp. We went deep on JJ McCarthy and really all aspects of what we've seen. Talked about the backup quarterback situation. Got into some of the players who have impressed us a little bit. Really fun conversation, as always. This show is presented by First Resource Bank. That's a member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area. They've got branches all over the place, and it's run by some very big Vikings fans. Tim Siegley, Aaron Siegley, Charlie Anderson. They run it. They go to games. They ask questions. They listen to Paul Allen on KFAN. And yeah, they really, really care. So please support them. Their online banking platform has been very easy for me to use. So if I can use it, I think you guys will be able to manage and handle it too. And all of the information for First Resource is in the description below. At The Athletic, had an observation story, takeaway style, nugget style on Monday. Gonna have something on Tuesday. I want defensive players. Got a little feature coming Wednesday that you guys might enjoy, and then we got the road coming to the first preseason game Saturday, and some more featurey type stuff coming later next week. So stay locked in at The Athletic. That's where I do my day job. In the meantime, enjoy this conversation with Dane Mizutani. All right, Dane, welcome to the Alec Lewis Show. How are you?
I'm honored to be on the show. First time on the Alec Lewis Show.
Are you honored? You're not actually honored. I mean, it's just not. I see you every day. We talk throughout practices. You have to hear me make some dumb jokes. I don't think you got to be that honored.
I'm excited. You're creating a brand for yourself. You're competing with Collar. I feel like I'm cheating on his podcast right now, hopping on yours. So
I'm kind of hoping we're going to see him out here later before this night practice, and I'm expecting some kind of comment. I mean, it's coming, but probably
he always has something to say. So
yeah, it's what makes him as great as it is. I told him on the Apple Podcast charts, Purple Insider is high up there. So I mean, it's kind of a world-renowned thing. We're going to get into training camp. I haven't talked about it a lot over the last week and a half. It's been so interesting being out here in that, how much do you really put in these days? I was talking with somebody earlier today. I don't know. How much do you put into what we see every day? Because I fight it myself.
See, in the moment, when we're out there at practice, JJ McCarthy will throw up what looks to be a beautiful ball, and I'll put everything into it in that moment. Or he'll throw an interception, and I'll say, "Oh my God, he has some work to do." But the truth is, I think after you're in it, it is important to zoom out because we really don't know everything that is going into each specific rep. So while there is a temptation to look at something from our perch, they've set us up with a nice little awning, a couple tents on a hill. We got a good view of training camp, but there is a temptation to read too much or pretend like we're in the huddle with them. And I try not to do that. I fight against doing that. So I try not to put too much into each specific play, but more so are we seeing growth? Is there tangible things that we can latch onto that, having done this as long as we have, can translate, okay, we're seeing this in practice. This is what it looked like week 1. This is what it looks like week 3. I try to take more of a conglomeration of what we're seeing out there rather than trying to ride the roller coaster. But I'm guilty of it too. I think we all are. You're out there 6, 7, 8 hours a day. It's hard not to take what you're seeing and make it into something bigger.
It's funny, you probably saw, but the NFL kind of aggregated a video of JJ throwing a route on air to Jordan Addison. It's all over social media. And it's like I said, route on air, no defenders, no pass rush. But JJ throws it before Jordan Addison is even out of the break. And for me, it's like this perfect example of there's no pass rush, there's no defenders, and yet it does feel like pretty impressive anticipation for guys working together for just like the second training camp around. So that's for me, it was like the perfect encapsulation of, I can understand on one side people being like, this is a route on rare rep, you dummy. This doesn't mean anything. But also, it is a sign of anticipation, which if you're evaluating quarterbacks, and we're going to get into the specifics here in a second, like it does feel like a fairly notable sign of a guy making a decision and having a rapport with the receiver he's going to need to have a rapport with.
Yeah, and I think Addison is a good person to bring up. I saw the clip you're talking about. He really does. He throws it before Jordan even starts to chop his feet and break towards the sideline. The anticipatory throw in that vacuum was good. There are times throughout training camp where it's been up, and there have been times throughout training camp where it's been down as far as those specific throws. But Addison, I think it's almost poetic that he was the receiver to catch that ball that went viral, because those two have developed a chemistry, like a noticeable rapport. And that's kind of the stuff I can latch onto and say, like, maybe this is real. Because I don't need to know what the play was. I don't need to know, did Kevin O'Connell instruct J.J. McCarthy, throw this ball no matter what, we want to work on this into tight coverage. All I know is I keep seeing Jordan Addison catch the ball, and J.J. McCarthy look really comfortable throwing it to him. So that's something that I've noticed. You never want Justin Jefferson out. You'd like him on the field at all times. But if that helps Jordan Addison and J.J. McCarthy develop a little bit more of a rapport early in camp, with the caveat of, I think Justin will be back sooner rather than later, like, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world. But I saw that clip against air. Yeah, it still got me. I was like, yeah, that's a damn good throw.
It's exactly right. The way I wanted to break down the JJ portion of this is to go through like specific elements of his play. So I kind of broke it down: accuracy, decision-making, velocity / layering, and then like just the charisma, because why not? And you got to talk about it because you give the fans what they want. But just accuracy in general to start. My review of him through, I guess now a week plus of padded practice is, it's probably, like, if I were to put a number on it, it'd probably be like 7.5 out of 10. Like, I feel like for the most part, he's been pretty accurate. I also, you've seen it just like I have. There have been a couple instances in the red zone where it's like sails a ball past Jalen Naylor where it was kind of a throw he needs to complete. I think there was another one to Josh Oliver. So how have you felt just watching him from an accuracy standpoint thus far?
Yeah, I'd say if we're just zooming in on accuracy, I think that is a pretty good microcosm of his camp as a whole, because there have been times where it's been up and he's been extremely accurate throwing football. And there have been times, I think, especially going against the number one defense, and then after that, continuing on through practice, where he looks sped up. He looks like he's trying to fit balls in there, and they are sailing on him. I don't think he's ever going to be like the most accurate guy in the NFL. I think there is going to be instances throughout his career where he does get a little wild, because I'm sure we'll talk about the arm strength too, but like the arm strength is palpable, but he throws it 100 miles an hour at all times. And I think when you're working towards taking some off of it, it can affect your accuracy. You're starting to see that kind of play out, where he's trying to fit different throws in and try different trajectories, but it's not always right exactly where it needs to be. What I will say is I think there are certain throws that he is extremely accurate on. I think to the 3-step, 5-step drop, get to the top of your drop, and bang that drive, that dig route over the middle.
Intermediate
or that dagger
over the
cut
middle.
Over the middle.
Yeah.
he's going to complete so many passes like that where the timing is there, he sees the vacancy and he lets it rip. Because those are the balls that I think like he puts it on guys right over the middle, like you said, intermediate routes. The deep throws up and down as far as accuracy, it doesn't turn over quite as nice as Sam Darnold's did, but Sam Darnold has a pretty generational arm when it comes to just letting it rip downfield. I just think there's going to be some growing pains throughout the year where you'll look at it and say he should have had that one. But I think 7.5 is probably a fair number because it's certainly not something I'm worried about where they're not going to be able to run an offense because he's so inaccurate.
There's even been like a swing pass here or there where it's a little behind Aaron Jones, and you can see even Jay, like, I mean, I could have my own opinion on it, but JJ after like claps his hands, kind of, and so you could tell, you can see, and it's pretty clear and obvious, noticing that he's even frustrated with that. But you're right about the velocity, and it's a good transition point because I do think part of the accuracy though is when you let it rip with the heat that he has. I continuously, the more I watch him at these training camp practices, the more whoever began the narrative of the arm strength, I mean, it couldn't be further from accurate. If anything, it's some, again, as you kind of said, it's like too strong. So I'd say, I mean, and I will, because I bucketed strength and layering, I do feel like we've seen very serious growth from a layering perspective. There have been multiple sideline passes to Jalen Naylor where he gets it up and over defenders, and it's kind of right in our direction, so we get to see it very well and clearly from where we usually stand. But I'd say arm strength, I've got no questions about it. If anything, got to dial it back at points, and then the layering feels like it's really coming along. And there was even on Saturday, his eyes were looking right. He looks in the middle. Then he progresses left. Jordan Addison's leaking down the left sideline, and he feathered it up and over. The video was probably on social media, but that was one where it's that was nice, and it was right in the bucket for him. So, what's your grade in that category for him?
Yeah, I'll switch. I mean, we went number grade for accuracy. I'm going to switch it up and go letter grade for layering. I'd say it's a solid B because it's not an A. There are still times where he'll try and layer one to the sideline. It'll just go 10 yards out of bounds because he's not getting that full up and down motion on it. But I want to give him a B there because I do think he's worked on it and made a concerted effort from OTAs in the spring to training camp in the summer. He told us this. Our guy Judd Zolgad asked him about his layering, about not just throwing it 100 miles an hour. And to JJ's credit, he admitted there are throws that I had in OTAs, that I had in the spring, that I wanted back. And I thought it was interesting when he talked about the touch, the layering. When you take a year off from throwing the football, or let's call it 8-9 months before he was actually out there on the field back throwing the ball, the arm strength and the arm talent that he has in his right arm, it's just there. So when he comes back and starts winging it, that didn't go away because of a knee injury. But what does take some time to build back up is that touch, is that I haven't thrown the ball in however many months. So I think you saw a little bit of that feeling out process in the spring, and it has looked better in the summer. And it has to look better in the summer and going into the fall because that is such a hallmark of this offense, is being able to fit it in to a vacancy when there's a guy short and a guy long. And Kevin O'Connell schemed up a play where if you can throw it to that intermediate route or intermediate area of the field, you're going to pick up a lot of yards. I want to see more of it, so I can't give him an A, but I think it's been much improved even since the spring, which has kind of been his MO throughout his time with the Vikings, is when we take breaks. I remember when he was a rookie. He came in rookie minicamp. It was all over the place. Then he came back for spring practices or workouts, and it was better. Then training camp, it was better. And then we all know the preseason game, it was even better. He's shown ability to steadily improve. So I expect the layering to continue to improve in that way. but it still needs some work. He is an unfinished product, I think, in that area of his game.
It feels very much, and we play golf together, so it's good to say this, but it feels very much like if you didn't play golf for a year, you might be able to like come out and swing a driver, but can you chip and putt? Do you have that kind of feel? Now I can't, I can't chip. You've seen me. I can't chip or putt whether I played a month and a half. That's how it is. But it does. It has been interesting. Like even Saturday, I mentioned the Addison throw, but there was a throw over the middle to Josh Oliver that I thought he got it up and over into a window. It was broken up by one of the DBs, but it was one of those where you're like, wow, that wasn't just a 102 mile an hour fastball right over the middle. And the golf analogy is funny because it's not like you're just hitting to a pin. It's a moving pin with obstacles moving around. I mean, that's like really what trying to do that is. But the letter grade you gave B there is probably exactly where I'd land as well.
Yeah, it is when you're looking at a practice and you see him miss some of these throws, you almost forget like how hard the position is because it's like, how do you not make that throw? Like just layer it in over the top. And I mean, I don't play in the NFL, so I could not do that. But I think it is a nice reminder sometimes, like, that's a pretty freaking hard throw to make that we kind of get spoiled. I think Sam Darnold is a good example. Like, there were times last season where he would make some of these throws and make it look so easy that you forget that it's hard. I think we'll probably see times this year where an easy throw that looks to be easy on the surface is missed because it's actually not that easy at the end of the day. That's why I think the growing will continue. But yeah, like kind of like his accuracy as a whole, I don't have any like glaring concerns about where he's at in that area of his game either. I think it's all improving, and it's something. If he came in and looking like a finished product in all of these areas, I would be more surprised than what we're seeing now, which is growth from a 22-year-old kid.
The segue from that for me is from a decision-making standpoint. I mean, that's where maybe I've been most impressed. And I don't know if that's fair to say, but I mean, there was a play Saturday that for me, it kind of captured how I feel about it. He takes the snap out of the shotgun. He looks to receiver to the right, and you could see the corner. I don't remember if it was Jeff Okuda or Isaiah Rodgers creeping up. Like, if you throw this football, this is a pick six going the other way. You've got no chance. And he sees it and then resets again and finds Jordan Addison, of course, over the middle. And then afterwards, Kevin O'Connell gave him a high five and looked pretty happy. But, like, there haven't been many instances where watching it, it's like, oh no, like how could you try that window? And it feels like the way they love to teach this offense, you know this because we listen to it all the time. It's about rhythm and timing. You look to a certain area, it's a yes or no. You either take it or no, and you progress. You have to keep your feet in line and your eyes in the right spot for it to work. And it feels like consistently he has done that even in the red zone. So, again, that's probably the area, that I think is incredibly important come September. But I felt very comfortable with where he's been in that area. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think when he's progressing or when he's in the pocket or receiving the snap and going through his progressions the way it's intended to go through in the functioning of the offense, I think he does a good job. Progressing from 1, is it there? No. 2, is it there? No. 3, let me get to my check down. I think he's shown a pretty good ability to do that kind of beyond his years already, considering he didn't have many reps last year even in practice. What I did notice is like when it got dialed up, when in the heat of the battle in these competitive drills against the number ones, you start to see his mind speed up a little bit, and maybe the decision-making suffers a little bit there. I think to a play, I think it was last Thursday, where we're in the 2-minute drill, and he is rolling right, and at that point in the practice, the defense had been kind of giving it to the offense. And the ball is, as soon as the ball snapped, I think Van Ginkel won. JJ moves out to his right and has just room to go take a 5, 6, 7 yard gain and get out of bounds with his legs. Decides instead to just wing it across his body to Aaron Jones, cutting back across the middle. Luckily, it wasn't intercepted. Probably could have been intercepted if Blake Cashman realized what was happening. But that's one where I think the decision-making and the learning process of the decision-making was on display, because it's like, just take the ball, go out of bounds, and live to fight another down. But I thought it was interesting. We talked to Kevin O'Connell the following day, and he made a point to bring that up to us.
Specific play.
Hey, there are moments, and then he said, like yesterday, where JJ was rolling right, take the yards, instead he flings it across his body. Well, fast forward a few hours after Kevin O'Connell speaks, the Vikings are back at practice. They're back in a 2-minute drill, and I remember it. It was JJ McCarthy, this time he's scooting out to the left, and he just immediately tucks the ball and runs, picks up 6 yards. That is like the real anecdotal growth I'm seeing from him. So I think the decision-making, if we try to project this out into what it's going to look like in the regular season, if he just has time to go through his reads, I think he's going to make the right decision. I think he's kind of been trained for this, even playing under Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, to just sit back and do it if he has time to do it. If the play breaks down, I think, and he has to get creative and use his brain, sometimes I think it might be a little touch and go. That's just a function of him being young and then thinking, I can make that throw, I can make this play. But right now, with where he's at in the grand scheme of the offense, I think you're probably encouraged by what he does when he has decisions in front of him.
And that, I mean, this conversation is not confined to JJ or new. I mean, last year, you'll recall the Colts game, Sam Darnold, I mean, he's like booting out to his left, and he throws, they're in the red zone. And that, I mean, that became after the Jaguars game, that became a very real conversation behind the scenes of, in this specific situation, let's make sure we're making this specific decision. And it took some of those trial by fire experiences in that middle part of the year to get Sam to the point at which he was able to have the back half of the year that he had. And so I'm with you, and it's very astute for you to bring it up. Like, I do think there are going to be times early in the year where JJ, the competitor that he is, he's booting out to the right, or he's flush from the pocket to the right, and he wants to make a play, and he's trying to find Justin on the sideline, and he tries to throw a 104-mile-per-hour fastball, and it's picked off on the sideline, and the fans are doing surrender cobras, and the media or in the press box is like, what just happened? But I kind of expect that. And so, to your point, to see the real-time growth in that area right now, it's part of the priority that Kevin O'Connell talked about in his first press conference before training camp.
Yeah, and that is where he's going to, if you're talking about winning on the margins with a quarterback and a coach, like, that is one where I think the Vikings are ahead of a lot of teams. We have to see it play out, but we've seen what Kevin O'Connell has been able to do throughout his tenure with the Vikings. With Kirk Cousins, he got him to think the position in a way that he probably hadn't thought it. And Kirk Cousins is a very good quarterback and has been doing this a long time. But I think when he got with Kevin O'Connell, there was a leveling up through just how Kevin O'Connell can get through to his quarterbacks. You saw it with Kirk Cousins. You saw it with Josh Dobbs for a hot second until it fell off. You saw it with Nick Mullins up and down on the roller coaster that kind of was when he was in the game. And obviously the most notable to this point is you saw it with Sam Darnold last year. So I think you're going to see it with J.J. McCarthy. Just because I saw anecdotal growth, though, from one practice to the next does not mean or guarantee that come September 8th or September 9th, whenever we're in Chicago, that he's not going to make that decision or that incorrect decision again. It's so much different. And that goes back to what you said at the beginning of the podcast. Like, how much can we read into what we're seeing in front of us in training camp? The answer is a lot and a little, because we want to see the growth, but it's so much different when instead of Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard coming off the edge, and those guys are incredible, but they're not trying to kill J.J. McCarthy. Like, Montez Sweat will be trying to kill J.J. McCarthy week one. So it's different, and that's something that I think is an unknown, that even if Kevin O'Connell prepares and prepares and prepares, like even he at a certain point is going to have to say like, I hope we've done enough, because at a certain point it is on JJ.
It's just such a hard – it might be the hardest position in sports to simulate what it is really like. I mean, on Sunday with the pressure, on prime time, pass rush coming at you. Like baseball players can simulate – hitters can simulate pitchers with the way machines are built, where they can, I mean, it's 98 mile per hour sliders that they can gear up, and that's programming in the machine. Hockey play, I mean, there's ways to simulate a lot, but quarterback is it's just so hard. One of the things you said there about Kevin O'Connell, I've thought about this. One of the underrated aspects for me of him as a coach, as a play caller, he's not like an analytical, he's not Kwesi where it's so numbers based all the time, but the way he thinks about play calling is probabilistic, is so much risk reward of like, what can I call here? What can we do here to put us in the right position? And his, I guess, awareness of that to me may go, it's so critical, and it probably goes under the radar a little bit. We'll use the rest of the time, that was a lot of JJ, rightfully, as it should be, to segue to some other subjects. And we'll start with one that isn't the most enjoyable to talk about at the moment, in backup quarterback. What is your concern level, Dane, over what you've seen thus far out of Sam Howell, Brett Rippon, and Max Brosmer?
I'm not pushing the red button and saying, like, sound all of the alarms, but I don't feel great about it. I really don't. And I thought I would give Sam Howell some time with the offense before I jumped down his throat and said, I'm out on this guy. I think there was a lot of that from a lot of people, and fair. That's fair. If it looks a certain way and you want to be out on him from the beginning, that's fine too, because it didn't look good right away. But I wanted to give him some time in the offense to say, like, or to understand what these guys are going through. It's a hard offense to learn. I go back to Kirk Cousins and what he said. Like, even he was feeling inundated with information, having to put voice memos on his phone. So, like, I didn't want to jump down Sam Howell's throat and say, this guy stinks, until I gave him some time. But now we're in week 3 of training camp, and there are times where they can't run a second-team offense because it's just not crisp. It's not functioning. And it's not just hurting Sam Howell. It's hurting Rondell Moore. It's hurting Silas Bolden. It's hurting Lucky Jack. Like, you can't get full reps in when it looks as clunky as it has at times for Sam Howell. Now, I'll say that with the caveat of I just put together my first 53-man roster projection, and we'll all do it. I'm sure everyone listening to this pod has seen Alex. They'll see mine. They'll see Collar's. They'll see Kramer's. They'll see Seifert's.
Ben?
We're all going to do it because Ben, Emily, everyone, Mark Craig, that we'll all put out our 53-man roster projections because that's what we do at this time in the dog days of training camp. I had Sam Howell still on the team because I'm still not ready to cut him until they make a concerted effort or decision, the Vikings, to find a replacement. I think Brett Rippon is an incredibly valuable piece to the quarterback room with the way that Kevin O'Connell talks about him, the knowledge of the offense he has now with how long he's been here. But I don't know if they feel comfortable with Brett Rippon being their backup quarterback. And I'm a former Gopher, row the boat, Sky, you might go Gophers. Max Brosmer's looked good, but are they ready for Max Brosmer? This is not a team that can say Max Brosmer's our starting quarterback if J.J. McCarthy goes down. Max Brosmer's our guy who's one snap away. They can't do that. So it hasn't looked good from Sam Howell to me, but I also can't cut him yet because there's nobody else out there. And at this point now it's August 4th, week 3 of training camp. We're about a week away from joint practices, which are so important to this team. At a certain point, it's like this is the guy in the room because he knows the offense. Something would have to happen pretty quick here, I think, for Howell not to be the guy. or at least to me, moving forward, at least in the short term.
Yeah, my definitive thought on this is, I mean, it's something worth monitoring very, very intently for now and over the next days and weeks. Like I'm with you in everything that you just outlined there. I mean, for Sam Howell, I mean, the arm talent you can see. Like he can get the ball up and down. I mean, he's got some juice to the arm. It's just the decision making, getting it out in the huddle, looking like he's just a tick slow with reads. All of that stuff raises serious questions. I mean, I've navigated last year. Sam Darnold, I remember he threw 2 picks one practice, and obviously he was able to work through it. But the other question that has been asked to me and that I have asked out loud is, what other options exist? I mean, Kirk Cousins' name gets thrown around, but if you're Atlanta, how willing would you be to move a guy knowing that your starting quarterback, Michael Penix, has been through the amount of injuries that he went through in college? So there's that. There's the money aspect of Kirk Cousins. I do think Kirk would come back here. Like, I have no question about that. But beyond Kirk, like, what else exists? Ryan Tannehill hasn't played in a year plus. Would he want to come be the backup? Fair, I mean, hard question to answer. And then what else exists? Like Brandon Allen down in Tennessee. I mean, you start to have I went through the list last night. Like, is Colt McCoy coming out of, doing podcasts in the media to be here? It's just, we're at a point where it's hard to find sensible names for that spot.
And that's why Sam Howell's on the team, at least to me, until he's not, is because he's there. He's their guy right now. And everybody would like to have the best backup quarterback in the league. But the truth is, like, some of these guys or some of these teams just have a backup quarterback that they know if our starter goes down, we got to hope and pray that they can win 1 or 2 games or half of the games that the starter is out. Now, like, I don't even want to mention it, but like I'll say it and knock on wood. Like, if something drastic were to change, where JJ gets seriously hurt, then that is one where you might just make a bigger trade and bring in a guy, someone else. But I don't know if you're preparing for that and making that big, huge move until you need to, until your feet are against the fire. So could we see like a smaller move at some point to upgrade the backup quarterback position? Sure, maybe. But to your point, who is that? I don't know. And until we have someone else in the room, like I can't go away from Howell yet. Even if it's maybe not the best option of all the options out there, when you really drill down, there actually aren't a lot of options out there. So he kind of started as the backup, and I think the way I've been describing it has been competing against himself throughout training camp for the backup spot. Some days Sam Howell wins against Sam Howell, and some days Sam Howell loses against Sam Howell, and we'll see what it looks like here. I mean, there's a month to go before the regular season, so maybe there will be improvement. Maybe there will be market improvement starting today at the night practice that will give them the confidence. But until then, something worth monitoring for sure.
The 2 things that would probably push the folks 2 floors upstairs to really get thinking. I mean, if operationally it still remains just so clunky, that would be one. And then the turnovers, Kevin O'Connell, this, his appetite for those after what has happened over the last couple of years in spurts will just be push. The boil will probably go over the edge at that point. Let's end it with anything else that stood out to you. I threw some topics: Dallas Turner, the cornerback room, Will Reichard. I don't know what else is on your mind or what else has stood out to you or who else. But as far as training camp holistically, what else has drawn your interest or attention?
To me, the player who has had the most impressive training camp, at least to me, taking into account where they were last year and where they are now, is Dallas Turner, because we saw him in the spring, and I remember all of us talking and saying he looks a little bigger. And then we saw him at the first day of the summer, the first day of training camp in the indoor. Like, he looks even bigger than he did in the spring. Well, yeah, that's great. Like, you can lift a lot of weights and get really strong and put on the muscle, but what are you going to do with it on the field? Like, he passed the eye test in terms of, like, he looks bigger, he looks like he really took this seriously. And then you play out that string and look at what it's really looked like through training camp. And I see a guy who fits the mold or fits the description of a third starter. Like Brian Flores has said, no, Dallas Turner is not behind Jonathan Grenard or Andrew Van Ginkel. We look at it like we have three starters. And again, like training camp, much different than in a game. But right now, it looks like they have three starters. He's a guy who I think has probably, if we were to break it down play count-wise, probably played the most of any defender in training camp because he's working with the twos and he's mixing it a lot with the ones. But I just thought it was so impressive how he's gone, transformed his body and then somehow done that and made it translate to the field pretty effectively right away. I think he could end up being like the Swiss Army knife for Brian Flores. The guy who filled that role before was Josh Metellus. Well, you might see Josh Metellus play a little bit more safety now, because if they want to get their best 11 on the field, before it was Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, and Josh Metellus were a part of that best 11. Now that best 11, probably, no disrespect to Theo Jackson, but you'd hope that it's Dallas Turner is a part of that best 11 before Theo Jackson. So I think right now Turner's done everything you could have asked of him through training camp to this point. He certainly stood out to me.
The thing about him, too, in these practices, and you may agree or disagree, but, like, he looks confident. Like, he looks like he knows he belongs out there, as much as the body type, the pass rush moves, the ability and coverage. Like, he's flying around with a little bit of, I mean, it's a classic, like swagger in a way that is just, it's identifiable, at least to someone like me over on the side. I'd say a guy I haven't talked a lot about, and just because I don't, for one reason or another, Isaiah Rodgers, I've said that I'm optimistic of him, but it's been like the whole package. Like, he looks like he knows the defense. Down the field, he's got ball skills. He's competitive. He moves well. He's got, quickness. So I just don't know. I mean, here's a guy they brought in on that first day of free agency. You remember it. We were both writing stories about it, probably. And it's like, who the heck is Isaiah Rodgers? Okay, he missed a year because of gambling. He didn't play a ton last year with the Eagles. And it just, I just wouldn't be surprised if, like, later in the year, we're looking at it and it's like, how did they find this guy who is a pretty elite corner out of nowhere? Just I haven't talked a lot about him, and the more I've thought about it, I'm like, these guys look pretty freaking good.
Yeah, and I was sitting at that table with you at owners' meetings back in April, and that was the first time Isaiah Rodgers' name even really registered to me. Day one of free agency when they signed him, I'm like, I never heard of this guy. All I know about him is his past, not how he actually plays on the field. But then Kevin O'Connell said something at owners' meetings, basically alluding to or saying something along the lines of, Brian Flores wanted this guy. He circled this guy on the grocery list and said, please go get him for me. So that piqued my interest. And then, yeah, I agree. Like, to this point, I can see why Brian Flores wanted that guy. And if Flo thinks he can get something more out of a guy, or thinks that they are at a point in their career where they're ready to ascend, who am I to disagree? Like, he has a background in talent evaluation before he got into coaching. I think that helps him understand what he wants in certain guys. Isaiah Rodgers certainly looks to be someone who fits that mold. And then I think Jeff Okudah probably is a pretty good segue. Like, he's looked the part too. Yeah. And I think he fits. If you were like, Brian Flores, go build your go in the lab and build yourself a cornerback. What would they look like? They'd probably look a lot like Jeff Okudah. 6'1", 6'2", strong, pretty nasty on the field. He's got a mean streak about him, just with the way he plays so physically. I'm hesitant to just say, like, this guy is going to be a starting caliber cornerback because to this point in his career, he has not been that. He's been up and down. He's been a spot minute guy more than a guy who I think you can just rely on and say, go shut down that part of the field. But him and Isaiah Rodgers probably are good mirrors of each other at this point because I was worried about the cornerback room heading into training camp, and now I feel pretty good about it. Like, I think Brian Murphy's had a good camp, but those two guys, Isaiah Rodgers and Jeff Okudah, certainly have stood out to me as people that could help this defense, which was already pretty good last year, take the next step to being a really, really good defense, perhaps top 5.
Yeah, I'm with you in everything you just said there. I obviously, health is going to be just critical for both those guys, specifically Okudah. Like, you go through the laundry list of torn labrums, torn Achilles, concussion, hit. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing for him. But the defense has just it's been very impressive. Unsurprisingly. Well, Dane, thanks for hopping on. I'll see you in a few hours at a press conference, and then I'll see you again the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and probably every day for the next 7 months. So we'll have you back on the show if Collar will allow it. And, that'll do it. But appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah, man. This was fun.
Always. Do it again. And that'll do it for episode 101 of the Alec Lewis Show. Be back later this week with another guest. Not going to preview the preseason game, but you know what? I'll probably take some questions on social media or in the comments, anything you got leading into that preseason game, players you want to ask about, circumstances you're curious to know about, toss those my way, and then we'll be, locked and loaded next week for joint practices and got some feature stuff coming at the Athletic. So stay locked in for all that stuff. If you're new here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, you can follow and rate and all that stuff, review. It helps us out, and we really appreciate it. So thank you guys for being here. Have a great week, and we will be back and talk to you guys very, very soon.